A seventh chevron locked with its characteristic resonant clang, and the wormhole exploded outward in a cascade of shimmering energy before settling into its stable event horizon. Sergeant Walter Harriman's fingers flew across his console, eyes locked on readings that made no sense. Sir, we're receiving an incoming traveler, but there's no IDC transmission. Energy signature is unknown, not matching any database profile. In the gate room below, armed SF personnel snapped into defensive positions. P-90s trained on the rippling vertical pool of blue-white light. Major Samantha Carter stood in the control room beside General Hammond, her scientific curiosity already wrestling with security protocols. General, the energy pattern is unlike anything we've encountered. It's not Goa'uld, not Asgard, not even ancient. Close the iris, Hammond ordered. Sir, the signature is already materializing. The figure emerged before the titanium barrier could seal. 8 feet of armored alien warrior stepped through the Stargate, energy shields flickering gold across midnight blue combat harness. The elite warrior's split mandibles flared as he scanned the concrete chamber, one clawed hand reaching for the elegant curve of an energy sword at his hip. His amber eyes took in the armed humans, the metallic iris sliding shut behind him, the chevrons still glowing around the gate's circumference. Freeze! The SF commander's voice echoed off the walls. Do not move. The Arbiter Thel Vadam, once supreme commander of the fleet of particular justice, now bearer of the mark of shame, stood motionless. His translator software processed the language, feeding him context, not covenant. Not human in the way he knew from his universe's humans. These were primitive ballistic weapons, not energy rifles. This structure, this chamber, the ring behind him similar to the halos in function. A portal, but the technology signature felt different, ancient but not Forerunner. His shields hummed softly, a sound these humans would not recognize. He had pursued a Forerunner artifact signal through a rupture in slipspace, expecting another fragment of the gods who created the rings. Instead, he found himself here, wherever here was. Stand down. General Hammond's voice crackled over the intercom, measured and firm. You are in a secure military facility of the United States Air Force. Cheyenne Mountain Complex. Identify yourself! The Arbiter's mandibles clicked a gesture meaningless to these humans. He straightened, showing no aggression but refusing to kneel. I am Thel Vadam, Arbiter of the Sangheili. I seek understanding. The portal I traveled spoke of ancients. His voice rumbled, deep and resonant, filtered through the translation matrix built into his combat harness. In the control room, Colonel Jack O'Neill arrived at a jog, coffee still in hand. He took one look at the towering alien warrior in the gate room and sighed. Please tell me that's a really ugly Yafa in experimental armor. Negative, Carter replied, her eyes never leaving her monitor. Sir, his personal shielding technology is operating on principles I've never seen. It's absorbing our security scanner beams. And that armor, it's not Naquata-based. Well, that's just great. O'Neill set down his coffee. Harriman, tell the guys down there not to shoot unless tall, dark, and Mandible Y makes a move. Teal'c entered the control room, staff weapon in hand, and froze as his eyes found the Arbiter through the reinforced glass. Something passed across the Yafa's normally stoic features, recognition, not of the individual, but of the bearing. A warrior carrying the weight of impossible choices. He is no Goa'uld, Teal'c said quietly. Yeah, I'm getting that, O'Neill replied. Question is, what is he? The Arbiter remained still, watching the humans scramble. He had expected hostility. He wore the armor of the Arbiter, marked for death and redemption, sent on missions from which none returned. His people had learned the prophet's lies, had broken the covenant, had watched their gods revealed as frauds who would activate the rings and destroy all life. He had nothing to lose by speaking truth. I do not come as conqueror, he called out, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. I served false gods who claimed divinity. I wore their collar until truth freed me. I know the stink of false prophets, his amber eyes fixed on the control room window, finding the humans clustered there. If you face such enemies here, if you stand against those who would claim godhood, then perhaps this portal brought me to the right war. Hammond exchanged glances with O'Neill. Dr. Jackson, I need you in the control room. Now. Daniel Jackson appeared moments later, glasses slightly askew, ancient tablet still in hand from his translation work. He stared down at the Arbiter. Oh, wow. That's not from around here. Your talent for observation never ceases to amaze, O'Neill deadpanned. No, Jack, I mean, Daniel leaned closer to the glass. He mentioned ancients. He came through the gate. General, I think we should talk to him. Underguard, Hammond agreed. Teal, Colonel O'Neill, Dr. Jackson, interview room 3. Major Carter, I want every sensor we have analyzing that armor and those energy shields. SF teams, escort our guest to the holding area. Non-lethal protocols, unless he demonstrates hostile action. The Arbiter watched the armed humans approach cautiously. He could kill them all in seconds, energy sword igniting. Active camouflage engaging, shields absorbing their primitive projectiles long enough to reach the exit. But he had not come seeking bloodshed. He had followed a signal, and instead found another species fighting the same war he had waged. False gods. Parasites wearing divinity. He allowed them to escort him, noting their professionalism. Their fear held in check by discipline. Warriors. Not Sangheili, but warriors nonetheless. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button. And drop the name of a character and the universe you want to see them in down in the comments below. Indeed, in the interview room, the Arbiter sat on a reinforced chair, standard furniture, proving almost comically inadequate for his size, and met the eyes of Jack O'Neill across the table. Two soldiers, divided by species and universe, united by the bone-deep recognition of military service. So, O'Neill began, folding his hands. Let's start with the easy one. What the hell are you? The Arbiter's mandibles spread in what might have been the Sangheili equivalent of a bitter smile. A warrior seeking redemption, and you? O'Neill glanced at Teal'c, then back to the Arbiter. Yeah, we might have that in common. The interrogation stretched into its third hour. Daniel Jackson had filled 2 notebooks with sketches and phonetic translations as the Arbiter described his universe, the Covenant, a theocratic alliance of alien species united in worship of the Forerunners. Ancient beings who built massive ring-shaped weapons capable of sterilizing entire galaxies. The prophets, Senshium leaders who claimed divine right to activate these halos and achieve transcendence, but whose great journey was revealed as genocide. Wait, back up, O'Neill interrupted, raising a hand. These Forerunners built galaxy-killing superweapons in the shape of rings, and your prophets wanted to turn them on? The parasite, the Arbiter said, his voice carrying the weight of tens of thousands of Sangheili lives lost to the truth. The flood, an all-consuming infection that corrupted any sentient life it touched. The Forerunners built the halos as a final solution. Fire the rings, destroy all sentient life in the galaxy, starved the flood. My people worshipped those who built weapons of extinction. Called them gods, served prophets who would have activated the array and murdered every living thing. Teal'c leaned forward, his dark eyes intense. You discovered your gods were false. I discovered my gods were dead, the Arbiter corrected, and that the prophets knew. They lied for millennia, enslaved my people and others Ungoi, Kigyar, Lekolo. Jirauhene all in service to a religion built on genocide. His mandibles tightened. When I learned the truth, I turned my fleet against the Covenant. The Sangheili broke their oaths. We called it the Great Schism. The room fell silent. O'Neill exchanged glances with Teal, then Daniel, and finally General Hammond, who had been observing from the corner. That, Daniel said quietly, removing his glasses to clean them, is remarkably similar to what we're facing. The Goa'uld are parasitic aliens, snakes, actually, that take human hosts and pose as gods. Rhea, Apophis, Baal, they've enslaved millions across thousands of worlds using Stargates. The same technology that brought you here. The Arbiter's shields flickered briefly. A sign of his agitation that Carter's sensors in the observation room immediately noted. Parasites, claiming divinity. Enslaving humans. His voice dropped to a dangerous rumble. And you fight them. We fight them, Teal confirmed. He rose from his chair, and the Arbiter watched the Yafa warrior with renewed interest. I was first primed to the false god Apophis. I carried his larval Goa'uld in my pouch, gave it life so that it might one day take a host. I believed he was divine. Teal'c's jaw set. I was wrong. I have spent years seeking to free my people from this slavery. Understanding passed between them, unspoken but absolute. 2 warriors from different galaxies, both shattered by the revelation of false divinity, both forged anew in rebellion against the gods who lied. The portal I entered, the Arbiter said, shifting his attention to Daniel. You call it a Stargate. It resonated with Forerunner energy patterns, but the architecture is different. Who built your rings? The ancients, Daniel replied, enthusiasm bleeding through his scholarly caution. They called themselves the Alterans. Millions of years ago, they seeded 2 galaxies with Stargate's wormhole travel between planets. They achieved a form of energy-based existence, what they called ascension, and left this all behind. Ascension. The Arbiter's translator processed the term, finding echoes in Forerunner records. The domain. Forerunner consciousness stored in quantum matrices, accessed by higher-tier rates. Your ancients achieved similar transcendence? We think so, yes, Daniel confirmed. Though they maintain a strict non-interference policy, usually, O'Neill drummed his fingers on the table. So you're saying your gods' foreigners and our ancients might be playing in the same sandbox? That's a fun coincidence. The artifact I pursued through the rupture, the Arbiter explained, carried both Forerunner and unknown energy signatures. When I activated it, slipspace collapsed into a different kind of transit. I emerged here. He looked directly at Hammond. I do not know if I can return. But if you face enemies who enslave through false worship, who claim divinity to subjugate humans. I am no stranger to such wars. Hammond stepped forward, hands clasped behind his back in parade rest. Mr. Arbiter, we've encountered a lot of aliens through that gate. Some friendly, most hostile, a few completely incomprehensible. But I'll be straight with you. The technology you're carrying, those shields, that armor, whatever weapons you've got, there are people in my chain of command who de-lock you in a lab and take you apart to study it. You speak of the need, Teal'c interjected. They would see the Arbiter as a resource to exploit. I won't let that happen, Hammond said firmly. But I need to know your intentions. You say you want to fight false gods. That's admirable. It's also what we do every day through that gate. But this isn't your galaxy. These aren't your people, and Earth isn't looking for foreign soldiers to fight our battles. The Arbiter rose to his full height, towering over the humans but careful not to project threat. I do not ask to lead. I do not ask for command, but I know war against false divinity. I know the cost of revelation, the bonds that break when truth shatters faith. If your Yafa are like the Sangheili, waking them to the parasites' lies will require more than words. His amber eyes found Teal'c. It will require warriors who have already walked that path. He's right, Teal'c said. The Yafa rebellion needs proof that the Goa'uld are false. An outsider, a warrior from beyond the Chapa'ai who has already defeated his own false gods. He paused. Such testimony would carry weight, O'Neill sighed. I'm going to regret this. Daniel, back me up here. Were we actually considering taking an 8-foot alien warrior who just fell through our gate on off-world missions? Jack, he fought a war against religious extremists who worshipped planet-killing superweapons, Daniel pointed out. That's literally more extreme than anything we've faced. Well, except maybe the Ori, but that's later, probably. Wonderful. O'Neill looked at the Arbiter. You follow orders? You work with a team? You don't go off half-cocked and start an interstellar incident because someone insulted your honor. The Arbiter's mandibles twitched. I am Arbiter. I was sent on missions from which none were meant to return, so that my shame would not stain my people. I survived when I should have died. I learned when I should have remained ignorant. I adapted when I should have remained bound by tradition. He met O'Neill's challenging stare. I know how to follow orders, even when they lead through fire. Hammond nodded slowly. Then we'll start small. Supervised. Colonel O'Neill, prep SG-1 for a reconnaissance mission. Standard protocol, if our guest here proves trustworthy on simple observation, we'll escalate. If not, he left the threat unspoken. If not, the Arbiter finished, you will find I am harder to cage than you imagine, but you will not need cages. Show me your false gods. Let me see these Goa'uld who wear divinity like armor. Then judge whether I am an ally or threat. The SGC armory fascinated the Arbiter in ways he hadn't anticipated. He stood in the weapons preparation room, watching Major Carter interface his energy shields with a Naquata power cell she'd modified. The recharge worked not perfectly, but functional. His shields hummed as they absorbed the alien energy, adapting protocols on the fly. Your shielding technology operates on principles that shouldn't be compatible with our power systems, Carter explained, her hands moving deftly across diagnostic equipment. But there's something in the underlying physics that's similar. Like whoever built your technology and whoever the ancients learned from were comparing notes. The Forerunners seeded many galaxies, the Arbiter replied. Perhaps your ancients encountered their work, Or perhaps all sufficiently advanced beings arrive at similar truths. Carter smiled. I like that theory. Very unified field of everything. She handed him the modified power cell. This should give you about 6 hours of continuous shielding. After that, we'll need to recharge. I'd love to study your energy sword. But Colonel O'Neill was very clear that I'm not allowed to dismantle the giant alien S weapons before he has earned his security clearance. A wise restriction, the Arbiter acknowledged. His hand rested on the elegant curve of his sword's hilt. This blade has taken Jiralhanae chieftains and Covenant zealots. It is as much a part of me as your weapons are to you. Teal'c entered the armory carrying his staff weapon and a Yafa training blade. Major Carter, if you are finished, I would speak with Thel Vadam. Carter glanced between them, reading the undercurrent. Right, I'll go make sure Daniel hasn't buried himself in ancient databases trying to prove the Forerunner ancient connection theory. She departed, leaving the two warriors alone among racks of P-90s, Zats, and salvaged Goa'uld technology. Teal'c set down his staff weapon with deliberate care. You carry your shame openly. The name Arbiter, this is not a title of honor among your people. No, the Arbiter agreed. It is a mark of disgrace. Sangheili who fail catastrophically are given the armor and sent to die gloriously, redeeming their failure through death. I was Supreme Commander when the Prophets ordered me to pursue a human holy site, what you would call a Forerunner artifact. I failed. They stripped my rank, branded me heretic, sent me to die. His mandibles spread. Instead, I learned the truth. The Prophets' great journey was extinction. The Covenant was founded on lies. The Goa'uld you'd enslaved through sarcophagus, Teal'c said, moving to stand beside the Arbiter. Through staff weapons and Yafa armies. But most powerfully, through faith. They convince humans across the galaxy that Rhea walks among gods. That Apophis commands the heavens. That rebellion is not merely treason but blasphemy. He met the Arbiter's eyes. I was first prime. I led armies in Apophis's name. I executed those who questioned his divinity. For nearly a century, I believed. What changed? I witnessed O'Neill and his team face Apophis without fear. Humans from a world that had cast down Ra, killed a supreme system lord, and refused to kneel. Teal'c's voice carried quiet intensity. They showed me that gods who can be killed are not gods. I turned against Apophis in the midst of battle, saved O'Neill's life, and became Sholva traitor. My wife believes me dead. My son carries the shame of my betrayal. The Arbiter understood viscerally. The Sangheili who followed me into the Great Schism abandoned their families, their keeps, their honor bonds. Those who refused to see the truth named us heretics. Brothers killed brothers. The Prophets turned the Jiralhanae, our rivals, against us. Sangheili blood ran in the holy city while the Covenant burned. They stood in silence, two soldiers from different galaxies bound by the same wound, the shattering of faith and the cost of awakening. You will face Goa'uld who demand worship, Teal'c said finally. System lords who command the might of Hatak motherships. Yafa who will die to protect their false gods, just as your Sangheili once died for the Prophets. Some will call you demon. Others may see opportunity, a weapon to claim, a warrior to convert. And you? The Arbiter asked. What do you see? A warrior who understands that freedom costs more than slavery. Teal'c picked up his training blade. The Yafa rebellion is young. Many still serve their masters, believing Tretanin cannot replace the symbiote, that independence will bring death rather than life. They need proof that gods can fall, that warriors can thrive without masters. He offered the blade to the Arbiter. You are that proof. A warrior from beyond the Chapa-I, who defeated his false gods and survived. The Arbiter accepted the blade, testing its weight. Crude compared to energy swords, but effective. You wish me to testify. I wish you to fight alongside those who already testify, Teal'c corrected. Words carry weight when spoken by warriors who have bled together. If you stand with SG-1 against the Goa'uld, if you face Yafa armies and refuse to kneel to system lords, your presence alone will ask the question. If this alien warrior does not fear false gods, why should we? The Arbiter activated his energy sword, twin blades of superheated plasma erupting from the hilt and a sharp hiss of contained fury. The blue-white light cast dancing shadows across the armory walls. Then let us ask that question, loudly. Teal'c's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes acknowledged the statement. He raised his training blade in salute, and the Arbiter returned the gesture with his energy sword before deactivating it. O'Neill believes you are a risk, Teal'c said. Daniel Jackson is fascinated by your connection to Forerunner technology. Major Carter wishes to understand your shields. General Hammond trusts, but verifies. He paused. I believe you are what you claim, a warrior seeking redemption. I will stand with you before the Goa'uld. If you prove false, I will kill you myself. If I prove false, the Arbiter rumbled, I will deserve it. O'Neill's voice crackled over the intercom. Teal'c, Arbiter, conference room. We've got a mission. The two warriors exchanged glances, the beginning of understanding between soldiers, who had walked parallel paths through fire. In the conference room, Daniel stood before a projected star map, indicating a planet designated P3X888. It's a routine recon mission. Intel suggests a Goa'uld mothership landed there 3 days ago. We need to confirm if it's still present and identify which system lord is establishing operations. Routine, O'Neill emphasized, looking directly at the Arbiter. We gate in, use reconnaissance equipment, stay out of sight, gate out. Nobody gets shot, nobody starts an interstellar incident. Nobody decides to challenge the local false god to single combat. The Arbiter's mandibles twitched with what might have been amusement. Understood. I mean it, O'Neill pressed. This is observation. You're there to prove you can follow protocols and not, say, activate your glowing lightsaber in the middle of a stealth mission. Energy sword, the Arbiter corrected mildly. And I am no stranger to stealth, Colonel. The Covenant sent Arbiters to destroy heretic strongholds and eliminate leadership. Subtlety was often more effective than glory. Carter looked up from her tablet. His active camouflage registered on our sensors during initial containment. It's sophisticated light-bending technology we've only seen in small-scale applications with ancient devices. So he can turn invisible, O'Neill summarized. Great. I'm taking an invisible 8-foot alien warrior through the gate. Hammond approved this? I did, the general's voice came from the doorway. With conditions. The Arbiter goes unarmed except for his energy sword. No plasma weapons, no grenades, nothing we don't understand. He follows Colonel O'Neill's orders without deviation. And at the first sign of compromise, he returns through the gate immediately. Hammond fixed the Arbiter with a commander's stare. Are we clear? Clear, General. The Arbiter straightened. I will observe your protocols. You have my word. Good, Hammond said. Because if this goes sideways, you're the alien invader who attacked a Goa'uld position, and Earth gets blamed. We've worked too hard building alliances to let that collapse. No pressure, O'Neill muttered. He looked at his team. Gear up. We get out in 30. And somebody find the Arbiter a vest. I don't care if it fits, we're at least pretending this is regulation. The wormhole's passage felt different than slipspace less. A tearing of reality and more a translation through dimensions the Arbiter's sensors couldn't fully map. He emerged on P3X888 with his shields flaring instinctively, immediately scanning the environment. Dense forest, twin moons visible through the canopy, and the Stargate standing on a raised platform surrounded by carved stone pillars depicting serpent-headed figures. Welcome to the wonderful world of off-world reconnaissance, O'Neill said quietly, P90 at the ready. Carter, how are we looking? Carter consulted her handheld scanner. No immediate energy signatures. If there's a mothership here, it's either cloaked or on the far side of the planet. She glanced at the Arbiter. Your shields are giving off a low-level energy field. If we get close to Goa'uld sensors, they'll detect it. I can modulate the frequency, the Arbiter replied, his armor's systems adjusting. The golden shimmer of his shields dimmed to near invisibility. The Covenant learned to mask energy signatures when hunting flood-infested vessels. Handy, O'Neill approved. Daniel, which way? Daniel oriented his scanner toward a break in the tree line. There's a settlement 2 clicks northeast. If the Goa'uld landed, that's where they'd make contact with the local population. The team moved through the forest with practiced efficiency. The Arbiter noted their spacing, their silent communication through hand signals. The way Teal'c anchored the rear while O'Neill led. Not unlike Sangheili combat teams, though far more fragile. He adjusted his movements, keeping noise to a minimum despite his size-old Arbiter habits from missions where failure meant more than death. They reached a ridge overlooking the settlement within 20 minutes. O'Neill signaled halt, and the team dropped into cover positions. The Arbiter crouched beside a massive tree, his armor's camouflage adapting to the bark patterns. Below, the village burned. Not actively. The fires had been extinguished hours ago, but the scorch marks from staff weapons scarred every structure. Bodies lay in the central square, humans who had been cut down mid-flight. And standing among the devastation, a patrol of Yafa swept through the ruins, their armor gleaming, serpent helms closed. Damn, O'Neill breathed. This wasn't recon. This was punishment. Daniel's face paled. They killed everyone. Women, children, Teal'c's jaw tightened. This is Apophis's mark. He has destroyed villages for lesser insults than refusing tribute. The Arbiter's shields flickered with barely contained rage. This is what your false gods do? Slaughter the defenseless to prove their power? Welcome to the Goa'uld Empire, O'Neill said bitterly. Carter count? 20 Yafa, maybe 25, she reported. No sign of a mothership in orbit, so they must have arrived by Teltac and left a garrison. We can't help them now, O'Neill decided. We document, report back. And the Arbiter's translator picked up the change in Yafa radio frequencies a half-second before Carter's scanner screamed a warning. Contact! Behind us! The ambush erupted from three sides. Yafa warriors emerged from concealment in the forest, staff weapons charged and firing. Energy bolts seared the air as SG-1 returned fire, P-90 rounds sparking off Yafa armor. The ambush had been perfectly laid. The village below was bait, and SG-1 had taken it. A staff blast caught Teal'c in the shoulder, spinning him backward. Daniel dove behind cover, firing his sidearm wildly. Carter's controlled bursts dropped one Yafa, but more poured through the trees. O'Neill was shouting into his radio, calling for immediate extraction, but the distance to the gate was 2 clicks through enemy territory. The Arbiter made his decision in the span between heartbeats. His active camouflage engaged, bending light around his form until he vanished from sight. The Yafa hesitated, confused by the disappearing target. In that moment of uncertainty, the Arbiter moved. He crossed 15 meters in seconds, energy sword igniting with its characteristic plasma hiss. The twin blades carved through the nearest Yafa's staff weapon and armor in one fluid motion, the superheated edge cauterizing even as it killed. The warrior collapsed, and the Arbiter was already moving to the next target. Yafa Kree! The patrol leader's voice rang out, but the command came too late. The Arbiter was among them now, a whirlwind of plasma blades and armored fury. His shields absorbed staff blasts that would have killed the humans, the golden flare of energy dissipation marking his position even through the camouflage. He moved like the warrior he was, centuries of Covenant combat doctrine, Sangheili blade mastery, and the desperate innovation of the Great Schism combined into something the Yafa had never encountered. An energy sword severed a staff weapon mid-fire. A shield bash sent a Yafa warrior flying backward into a tree with bone-breaking force. The Arbiter's free hand caught an incoming blade, his armor, strength enhancement allowing him to wrench it away and drive his sword through the warrior's defenses. Sweet Mother of O'Neill stopped mid-curse to drop 2 more Yafa with precise bursts. Teal'c, you seeing this? Teal'c, clutching his wounded shoulder, watched with something approaching awe. I am O'Neill. He fights as though born to it. The Arbiter's shields flared gold under concentrated fire. 3 Yafa had coordinated their attack, staff weapons firing in sequence to overwhelm his defenses. He felt the shields buckle, energy bleeding through, but Sangheili physiology could withstand punishment that would kill humans. He charged directly into their formation, sword spinning in an arc that caught 2 warriors across their midsections. The third managed to dodge, bringing his staff weapon up for point-blank execution. Carter's P-90 stitched rounds across the Yafa's back, dropping him before he could fire. The Arbiter's camouflage disengaged, revealing him standing amid 8 dead Yafa, his shields recharging with a rising hum. More warriors were approaching from the village below, drawn by the sounds of combat. Fall back, O'Neill ordered. Fighting retreat to the gate. Move, move! SG-1 ran and the Arbiter anchored their withdrawal. He moved between the team and pursuing Yafa, his shields absorbing the incoming fire that would have cut down the humans. Staff blasts splashed against his energy barriers, each hit draining power but buying seconds for O'Neill to lay down suppressing fire, for Carter to help Daniel over rough terrain, for Teal'c to limp forward despite his wound. A Yafa warrior closed to melee range, training blade meeting energy sword in a shower of sparks. The Arbiter recognized the fighting style similar to Sangheili close combat, but lacking the strength behind it. He parried twice, then drove his blade through the warrior's defense with contemptuous ease. Arbiter left flank! Carter's warning came an instant before plasma fire converged on his position. He dove, shields flaring, and came up moving toward the threat rather than away. The aggressive maneuver caught the Yafa off guard. Most enemies fled overwhelming fire. The Arbiter crashed into their formation like a meteor, energy sword carving a path of destruction. The gate platform appeared through the trees. O'Neill was already dialing, his fingers flying across the DHD while Teal'c and Carter provided covering fire. Daniel had his own weapon out, shooting with better accuracy than the Arbiter had expected from a scholar. "Chevron 6 encoded," O'Neill shouted. The Arbiter reached the platform as the 7th chevron locked and the wormhole exploded outward. Yafa warriors were seconds behind, staff weapons blazing. He turned to face them, planting himself between the incoming fire and SG-1. "Go!" he commanded. "Not without you." O'Neill grabbed his arm-human hand barely wrapping around Sangheili forearm and hauled him toward the event horizon. "Jump!" They dove through together as staff blasts scorched the air where they'd stood. The wormhole took them, translated them across the galaxy, and spat them out in the SGC gate room, where armed SF personnel immediately provided covering fire at the gate behind them. The Arbiter's shields were at 15%. His armor was scorched in a dozen places. And O'Neill was laughing, breathless, and adrenaline drunk. "That," the colonel said, clapping the Arbiter on his armored back, "was the most insane fighting retreat I've seen in 15 years. You're officially crazy enough for SG-1. The infirmary smelled of antiseptic and the faint ozone tan of alien technology. Dr. Janet Fraser worked on Teal'c's shoulder wound while the Arbiter stood against the wall, his armor's self-repair system sealing minor breaches with microscopic precision. Hammond had debriefed them immediately standard protocol after contact, and now the weight of what they'd witnessed settled over the team. 17 P90 rounds expended, O'Neill reported, his voice flat in the way that meant he was processing losses. 8 confirmed Yafa KIA by the Arbiter, 4 by team weapons fire, village population estimated at 200. 0 survivors found. Daniel sat with his head in his hands. They killed them all just to set an ambush. Used their bodies as bait. Apophis is escalating, Teal'c said, wincing as Fraser extracted staff weapon fragments. He seeks to demonstrate power after his defeat at Earth. Villages that refuse tribute are made examples. The Arbiter's mandibles tightened. In his universe, the prophets had done the same, glassed entire colonies that questioned the Great Journey, made martyrs of heretics to terrorize the faithful. The tactics were identical across galaxies. False gods spoke in the language of terror because they had nothing else. Hammond entered the infirmary, and behind him walked Jacob Carter, eyes glowing with the brief flare that indicated his symbiote, Selmak, was present. The Takra operative's gaze immediately fixed on the Arbiter with undisguised fascination. "General," Jacob said, "Selmak has some interesting news about our tall friend here. The Takra intelligence network is buzzing. Apparently, System Lord Yu has become very interested in reports of a demon warrior who fights without a symbiote and bleeds no blood from staff weapon strikes." "Shields," Carter interjected. "His energy shielding absorbed most of the damage. But from a distance, it would look like invulnerability." Jacob nodded. "The Goa'uld are paranoid about anything they don't understand or control. An alien warrior appearing through the Stargate, cutting down Yafa with an energy blade, vanishing from sight?" He looked at O'Neill. "You've created a System Lord's nightmare scenario." "Good," the Arbiter said. His voice carried an edge that made everyone turn. "Let them fear. Let them wonder. The prophets feared the truth, that is why they destroyed those who questioned. If your false gods fear me, it is because they recognize a threat to their lies." "It's not that simple," Hammond cautioned. "System Lords don't just fear threats, they eliminate them. Or worse, they try to claim them." "Jacob, what's the Takra assessment?" Selmak's voice emerged, layered over Jacob's. "Yu is the most cautious of the System Lords, but also the eldest. He survived the defeat of Ra, the rise and fall of Apophis, the civil wars between System Lords. If he takes interest in the Arbiter, others will follow. Baal, certainly. Perhaps even Anubis, if reports reach him." "Anubis," Teal'c spoke the name like a curse. The half-ascended. "He seeks ancient knowledge and technology above all else. If he learns of Forerunner energy signatures, he'll want to dissect me," the Arbiter finished, "or turn me into a weapon. Your false gods are predictable." 3 days later, the prediction proved accurate. SG-1 gated to P2X338. A mining world where Takra intelligence indicated a minor Goa'uld named Khonsu maintained operations. The mission was supposed to be another reconnaissance observe mining output, confirm Takra reports, return home. Instead, they arrived to find the mining settlement assembled in the central plaza. Thousands of humans in filthy work clothes standing before a raised platform where a Goa'uld lord sat upon a throne. But it wasn't Khonsu. The system lord was smaller in stature, ancient by human standards, his host body withered but his eyes blazing with the characteristic Goa'uld glow. His robes were elaborate, decorated with jade and gold. Yafa warriors flanked him, not dozens but hundreds, and a high-tech mothership hung in orbit above, its presence a shadow against the sun. "You," Teal'c breathed. "He's here personally." They watched from concealment on a hillside overlooking the plaza. The Arbiter's active camouflage kept him invisible, but his translator picked up every word as you addressed the assembled crowd in a voice amplified by Goa'uld technology. "I am your god," you declared, the modulated bass of the Goa'uld voice effect reverberating across the plaza. "I who commanded fleets when Ra ruled supreme. I who have survived the fall of system lords and the rise of pretenders. This world belongs to me and you exist by my mercy alone." The crowd knelt as one practiced, terrified, broken. "A demon walks among the stars," you continued, his glowing eyes sweeping across the kneeling masses. "A creature that defies the gods, that slays Yafa without fear, that bleeds no blood. Some of you whisper that this demon will free you, that the false gods can be challenged." His voice dropped to a lethal whisper that somehow carried further than his shouts. "Let me show you the fate of those who believe in false hope." Yafa dragged forward a man middle-aged, scarred from years of mining, defiance still burning in his eyes despite the beating he'd endured. "This slave spoke of the demon warrior," you said. "He told others that the gods could be killed, that freedom was possible. He dared to hope." The system lord rose from his throne, descending the platform steps with deliberate slowness. "Hope is a luxury slaves do not possess." You raised his hand, and the ribbon device, the Karakesh, activated with a golden glow. The man screamed as Goa'uld technology invaded his nervous system, pain beyond imagining radiating from Yu's will. The crowd watched, forced to witness as their fellow slave writhed and bled from eyes and nose. The Arbiter's energy sword was in his hand before conscious thought. His shields flared to full power, the gold shimmer visible even through his camouflage. Every fiber of his being demanded action, demanded that he cross the distance and drive his blade through this parasite's throat. O'Neill's hand caught his wrist. "Don't. He murders the innocent," the Arbiter snarled, his voice barely controlled. "There are 300 Yafa down there and a mothership in orbit," O'Neill hissed back. "We can't save him, we can barely save ourselves. Then we die trying." The Arbiter started forward, but Teal'c blocked his path, staff weapon crossed between them. "You cannot save him," Teal'c said, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 similar moments. "But you can ensure his death means something. If you reveal yourself now, you will glass this planet from orbit and call it divine judgment. Everyone here dies. Is that the redemption you seek?" The Arbiter froze, mandibles spread in anguish. Below, the man's screams had stopped. His body slumped lifeless, and you kicked it aside with casual contempt. "Remember this," you told the crowd. "Your God is merciful. I could have killed you all. Instead, I killed only one who questioned. Serve me faithfully, and you will live. Defy me." He gestured to the corpse. "And the demon who inspired your foolish hope will not save you." The Hatak's rings descended, transporting you and his elite guard back to orbit. The remaining Yafa began dispersing the crowd, staff weapons ready to enforce compliance. SG-1 withdrew in silence, gating back to Earth with mission footage that would haunt them all. In the debriefing room, the Arbiter stood motionless, replaying Yu's speech through his translator. Every word echoed the Prophet's sermons: obey or die, question and face annihilation, hope is heresy. He had watched the Covenant murder billions in the name of the Great Journey. Now he watched the Goa'uld murder individuals to terrify millions. "This is what you face," he said finally, his voice hollow. "Every day, on every world. The same lies I served, repeated endlessly." "Yeah," O'Neill confirmed quietly. "Welcome to the Goa'uld Empire. It doesn't get easier." "Good." The Arbiter's eyes blazed with renewed purpose. "It should not be easy. False gods should die hard. And I will help you kill them. The Takra base existed between spaces, hidden in crystal tunnels that shifted and grew through symbiote-influenced technology. SG-1 had gated here at Jacob Carter's request, and the Arbiter found himself walking through corridors that reminded him uncomfortably of Covenant architecture, organic fluid, designed by beings who thought in dimensions humans couldn't quite grasp. The crystals respond to Takra presence, Carter explained, running her hand along a luminous wall. They're grown, not built. It's kind of beautiful, actually. The Forerunners built similar structures, the Arbiter observed. On Installation 05, there were chambers that reconfigured based on the presence of reclaimers. Technology that predates your civilizations by millions of years, yet operates on similar principles. They entered a council chamber where Takra operatives had gathered. Jacob stood at the center alongside several other hosts, their eyes occasionally flashing with symbiote presence. At the far end of the room, a holographic projection displayed star maps and intelligence reports, the familiar tactical displays of a military operation. "Thank you for coming," Salmak's layered voice greeted them. "What we have learned requires immediate action, and the Arbiter is central to that action." "I'm not going to like this, am I?" O'Neill asked. A Takra operative named Malik activated the hologram. 3 days ago, System Lord Yu convened a council of minor Goa'uld under his domain. The topic was Singular, the alien warrior who appeared at P3X 888 and slaughtered Apophis' Jaffa. Yu has declared the Arbiter a threat to System Lord authority and placed a bounty on his capture. "Alive, specifically. Of course alive," Daniel muttered. "They want to study him, figure out how his technology works." "Worse," Malik continued. "Yu has shared his intelligence with other System Lords. Baal is intrigued. Aulakon has dispatched scouts. And Anubis," the hologram shifted to show a ship unlike any Goa'uld vessel the Arbiter had seen, black, angular, bristling with weapons that felt wrong even through the projection. "Anubis is actively searching." Teal'c's expression darkened. Anubis was banished by the System Lords for crimes too extreme even for the Goa'uld. He returned with knowledge of the Ancients, technology that made him nearly unstoppable. "If he captures the Arbiter, he'll reverse-engineer Forerunner technology," Carter finished. "Energy shields, active camouflage, whatever else is in that armor. It would give him an edge over every other System Lord." The Arbiter's mandibles tightened. "I am familiar with the scenario. The Prophets sought Forerunner artifacts for similar reasons, to consolidate power, to enforce their lies with technological superiority. They turned the Sangheili into their enforcers by controlling access to the best weapons, the strongest shields." He looked at Jacob. "You did not bring us here simply to warn me." "No," Salmak admitted. "We brought you here because of what we discovered in ancient databases." "Thel Vadam, your arrival through the Stargate was not random chance." A new hologram materialized, a star chart showing 2 galaxies, connected by luminous threads. One galaxy the Arbiter recognized from Covenant data as the Milky Way, though from a different perspective. The other was unfamiliar. "The Ancients built the Stargate network millions of years ago," Daniel explained, stepping forward with scholarly excitement bleeding through. "They seeded 2 galaxies, the Milky Way, where Earth is, and Pegasus, where they built the city of Atlantis. But recently, we found references to the Ancients encountering other advanced races. Specifically, references to what they called the Builders, a civilization that created massive ring-shaped structures." The Arbiter stared at the hologram. "Forerunners. Your Ancients met the Forerunners." "We think so," Daniel confirmed. "The references are vague, the Ancients don't mention them often, and there's a sense of respect, maybe even caution. Like they recognized equals. The database mentions convergence points where ancient and builder technology intersects. Stargate addresses that lead to places where both civilizations left artifacts." Malak manipulated the hologram, highlighting a specific planet. P7X121, an uninhabited world in the Outer Rim, far from any System Lord's territory. 3 months ago, Takra scouts detected unusual energy signatures there, both ancient and something else. We didn't investigate because our resources were committed elsewhere. But now, knowing what the Arbiter's technology signature looks like, he glanced at Carter's scanner data. "The signatures match. You think there's Forerunner technology on that planet," the Arbiter said slowly. "And you believe it's connected to how I arrived here. More than that." Salmak interjected. "We believe the artifact you pursued through your slip space rupture was a bridge between your universe and ours, built where ancient and Forerunner technology overlapped. A gateway between gateways. O'Neill rubbed his temples. So let me get this straight. The Arbiter came through a super Stargate that connects entire universes. Built by ancient and Forerunner engineers working together millions of years ago, and now there's possibly more of this technology just sitting on a planet nobody's watching? Essentially, yes, Daniel confirmed. And if Anubis finds it first? The room fell silent. The implications were clear. Anubis, with access to universe-bridging technology, to Forerunner weapons designed to fight the Flood, to knowledge that predated even the Ancients' ascension. We must reach it first, Teal'c stated. If such power exists, it cannot fall to the half-ascended one, the Arbiter considered. Part of him yearned for the possibility of return to rejoin the Sangheili, to continue the fight against Covenant remnants, to see his universe again. But another part recognized the strategic reality. If this technology exists, your enemies will seek it. I am familiar with containment protocols for Forerunner artifacts. Many were designed to activate only for reclaimers, those with genetic ties to Forerunners. I do not know if I qualify, but he met O'Neill's gaze. I would rather face what lies on that world with all eyes than allow your false gods to claim it unopposed. There is a complication, Malik said carefully. Then we leave now, O'Neill decided. Hammond will authorize immediate gate travel if it means keeping Forerunner superweapons out of Goa'uld hands. Carter, prep your ancient scanner array. Daniel, download everything the Tok'ra have on builder references. Teal'c full combat loadout. And me? The Arbiter asked. O'Neill's expression was grim. You're our key to whatever's down there. Your armor reads Forerunner signatures. You've operated ancient adjacent technology. If there's something on P7X121 that needs a genetic lock or a specific energy pattern, he trailed off. You're going to be very popular. Try not to activate any galaxy-killing weapons, okay? I shall endeavor to restrain myself, the Arbiter replied dryly. 6 hours later, they emerged through the Stargate on P7X121 into a landscape that stole the Arbiter's breath. The planet was a graveyard of titans. Massive ring fragments jutted from the ground at impossible angles, not halo installations but something similar. Ancient architecture mixed with Forerunner geometric precision, structures that had stood for eons and would stand for eons more. The sky was wrong purple-tinged, and the gravity felt lighter than Earth's standard. My God, Daniel whispered, his scanner going haywire. There are energy readings everywhere. This place is saturated with ancient technology. Carter's equipment painted a similar picture. Naquata signatures 0-point energy fluctuations, and... She looked at the Arbiter. Your armor is resonating. Whatever's here, it recognizes you. The Arbiter felt at a pull. Like installation archives calling to a monitor, like the domain reaching out to Sangheili consciousness. His armor systems were receiving data, fragmentary, in languages that predated the Covenant. Forerunner glyphs overlaid with ancient symbols, both species communicating across millions of years. They work together here, he said quietly. The Builders and the Ancients. This was a collaboration. A staff weapon blast shattered the moment. Yafa warriors poured from behind the ring fragments, use forces already present and attacking. But these weren't standard Goa'uld troops. Their armor was enhanced, their weapons modified with technology the Arbiter recognized with dawning horror. They were using Forerunner hardlight shields, crude, unstable, but functional. Scientists had already begun salvaging the artifacts. Contact! O'Neill opened fire, P90 rounds sparking off the hardlight barriers. They've got shields. Carter, ideas? The Arbiter's energy sword ignited. I have one. Follow me. He charged into the enemy formation, and the ancient battlefield came alive with the clash of technologies never meant to meet. The hardlight shields collapsed under sustained fire from the Arbiter's energy sword. The technology was unstable, barely functional Forerunner systems forced into compatibility with Naquata power sources by Goa'uld scientists who understood neither. The Arbiter cut through the first wave of Yafa with practiced efficiency, his blade carving paths through their crude defenses, while SG-1 provided covering fire. Left flank! Carter's warning came as more Yafa emerged from a massive structure shaped like a half-collapsed dome. Ancient pillars supported sections of Forerunner alloy plating, creating a hybrid architecture that shouldn't exist but did. The Arbiter's armor sensors screamed warnings, active energy signatures converging, technology powering up after millennia of dormancy. A beam of golden light erupted from the dome's apex, sweeping across the battlefield. It caught the Arbiter mid-stride, and his shields flared white-hot as Forerunner identification protocols clashed with ancient scanning arrays. The technology recognized him as Sangheili, as Reclaimer adjacent, as something that shouldn't be possible in this galaxy, and it locked onto him like a target designator. "Arbiter, move!" O'Neill shouted, but the beam held him in place, his armor's systems overwhelmed by the scanning pulse. Yafa warriors closed in, staff weapons leveled not to kill but to subdue. A ring platform descended from a Teltac hovering overhead used transport, cloaked until this moment. The Arbiter fought. His energy sword severed the nearest Yafa's staff weapon, and his shields absorbed 3 simultaneous blasts. But more warriors piled on, using their numbers to overwhelm his defenses. A zap blast caught him in the side, one shot stunning, his shields barely deflecting the cascading electrical charge. The second shot hit before he could recover, and Sangheili nervous systems, for all their resilience, couldn't withstand the Goa'uld weapon's specific frequency. He collapsed, conscious but paralyzed, as Yafa hands hauled him toward the ring platform. "No!" Teal'c's staff weapon fire dropped 2 warriors, but more flooded the gap. The Teltac rings activated, and the Arbiter felt the sickening lurch of Goa'uld transportation technology. When his vision cleared, he was no longer on the planet's surface. The cargo hold of the Teltac was smaller than he'd expected, lined with salvaged artifacts, Forerunner data cores, ancient control crystals, hybrid devices that made his armor sensors recoil in confusion. And standing before him, eyes glowing with parasitic possession, was System Lord Yu himself. "Magnificent," Yu breathed, circling the restrained Arbiter. Yafa had secured him with energy restraints that sparked against his shields, draining them rapidly. "The demon warrior in the flesh. Your armor alone is worth a dozen Hatak motherships. Your knowledge of these builder artifacts," he gestured to the salvaged technology, "priceless." The Arbiter's mandibles spread in defiance. "I have faced the Prophet's torture. I have endured the brand of the heretic. Whatever you intend, false god, I will not break." Yu's expression shifted, amused, intrigued, and supremely confident. "You misunderstand. I do not seek to break you. I seek to claim you." He raised his left hand, and the ribbon device, the Kara Kesh, gleamed in the dim light. This device channels the Goa'uld's natural abilities through Naquata in the bloodstream. It can cause pain beyond imagining, rewrite memories, or the device activated with a golden glow. Read the very structure of your mind. Pain exploded through the Arbiter's consciousness. Not physical, this was deeper, invasive, a violation of thought itself. Goa'uld technology tore through his neural pathways, seeking information, mapping his memories. You saw the Great Schism, the Prophet's lies, the activation of the Halo arrays narrowly prevented. He saw Covenant fleets glassing worlds, Sangheili honor codes, and the desperate alliances that followed the collapse of the Empire. "Fascinating," Yu murmured, his voice distant through the haze of agony. "Your civilization worshipped beings who built weapons to destroy galaxies. You discovered the truth and survived. Such resilience." The pain intensified, "but I also see your guilt. The worlds you burned in the Prophet's name, the heretics you executed, the lies you enforced. You seek redemption, warrior, but you believe yourself unworthy." The Arbiter's shields had collapsed entirely. Energy restraints bit into his armor, and the Karakesh's invasion felt like his skull was being pried open from the inside. He roared defiance in Sangheili war cant, words the translator didn't bother processing, ancient curses against false prophets and parasites who claimed divinity. Yu withdrew the ribbon device, and the Arbiter sagged in his restraints, mandibles trembling with exhaustion. "You are strong," Yu acknowledged. "Stronger than most hosts could survive. Which makes you perfect." He gestured, and Yafa warriors brought forward a stasis jar. Inside, suspended in clear fluid, a Goa'uld symbiote writhed, a serpent perhaps 30 centimeters long, its body segments rippling with predatory grace. The Arbiter had seen the parasites in intelligence briefings, in Carter's scientific explanations. Seeing one in person was different. This was the truth behind false divinity, a worm that burrowed into the brainstem and seized control, suppressing the host's consciousness while wearing their body like stolen armor. "This is Kashek," Yu said, lifting the jar. "A young symbiote, ambitious, loyal to me. He will enter your body through the base of your skull, wrap around your brainstem, and take control." Your strength will become mine. Your knowledge of Forerunner technology will serve my empire. And your armor, your weapons, your very biology will be studied and replicated. The Arbiter's amber eyes locked onto the writhing parasite. I would rather die. That, you said pleasantly, is not an option. Yafa, prepare him. Warriors moved to secure his head, and the Arbiter thrashed against restraints that held firm. His energy sword was gone, confiscated. His shields were depleted. His strength, formidable by human standards, couldn't break Forerunner-enhanced restraints. He watched the stasis jar open, watched Kashak slither out into Yu's waiting hand, watched the system lord approach with the certainty of a predator claiming prey. The parasite's head rose, tasting the air, sensing the alien biology it was about to invade. And then the Teltech's hull screamed as something tore through it from outside. The explosion sent Yu sprawling, the symbiote flying from his grasp to writhe on the deck. Alarms shrieked as atmosphere vented through a meter-wide hole in the cargo hold's wall. Through the breach, the Arbiter saw the impossible SG-1 riding an ancient puddle jumper, the small craft's drone weapons having punched through the Teltech's shields and hull with surgical precision. Did somebody order an extraction? O'Neill's voice crackled over Goa'uld comes, hijacked by Carter's technical expertise. Because you're getting one whether you like it or not. Yafa warriors scrambled for weapons, but Teal'c was already through the breach, staff weapon blazing. He moved like vengeance incarnate, cutting down Yu's guards with the cold efficiency of a first prime turned rebel. Daniel followed, sidearm firing to cover Carter as she sprinted toward the Arbiter's restraints with an ancient control device. Forerunner energy signatures on the restraints, she said rapidly, fingers flying over her scanner. They're locked to... Wait, they recognize your armor's command codes. Arbiter, can you override them? The Arbiter focused through the lingering pain of Yu's torture, accessing his armor's deep systems. Forerunner security protocols responded sluggishly. The restraints were designed by builders but modified by ancients and corrupted by Goa'uld tampering. He pushed command authority through the connection, felt the restraints hesitate. Then, they released with a snap of dissipating energy. The Arbiter surged to his feet, one massive hand closing around Kashak's writhing form. The symbiote shrieked a sound that should have been possible from something so small as Sangheili's strength crushed its segments. He hurled the dying parasite at Yu's feet. I told you, false god. I will not be your weapon. Yu's eyes blazed with fury. Kill them all! The firefight erupted in the confined space of the cargo hold, staff weapon blasts, ricocheting off ancient artifacts and Forerunner alloy. The Arbiter retrieved his energy sword from where the Yafa had carelessly stored it, the familiar weight settling into his grip like coming home. He moved through Yu's warriors with renewed purpose, each strike fueled by the memory of that parasite approaching his spine.
This was what the Goa'uld were. This was the truth behind their divinity parasites who stole bodies and wore civilizations like masks. He had served the prophets who commanded glassing, who activated rings of extinction. But even the prophets had been biological beings, however twisted. The Goa'uld were something less, thieves of identity, wearing humanity as disguise. Puddle jumper now! O'Neill ordered, and SG-1 fought their way back through the breach. The Arbiter anchored their withdrawal, his energy sword carving space while his partially recharged shields absorbed incoming fire. He saw Yu retreating toward the cockpit, the system lord unwilling to risk his ancient host body in direct combat. They piled into the puddle jumper, ancient technology responding to O'Neill. SATN and the craft banked away from the Teltech as Yafa warriors fired futilely at their hull. Below, on P7X-121's surface, more ring platforms were descending. Yu was calling reinforcements, unwilling to let the Forerunner artifacts remain unclaimed. We need to destroy that site, Teal'c said grimly. If Anubis learns what Yu has found. Already on it, Carter replied, her fingers dancing across the puddle jumper's controls. I'm setting the ship's drones to target the central dome structure. The energy readings suggest it's the primary power source for the entire artifact complex. If we take it out, the drones launched sleek ancient projectiles that moved with hypersonic precision. They struck the dome in sequence, and the Arbiter's armor registered the catastrophic feedback as Forerunner and ancient technologies destabilized simultaneously. The explosion was beautiful and terrible, a column of golden blue light that reached toward the purple sky, consuming Yu's salvage artifacts and reducing millennia of collaboration to slag. On the Stargate platform at the planet's edge, the event horizon shimmered. SG-1 had left it active, their emergency fallback position. The puddle jumpers screamed toward it at full speed, used Teltac in pursuit, but too slow, too late. They transited through the Stargate, still aboard the ancient craft, in a legal maneuver that made Hammond's face turn an interesting shade of red when they materialized in the SGC gate room and crashed into the far wall with only minor damage, but they were alive. And the Arbiter had faced the Goa'uld ultimate weapon possession itself and refused. The infirmary had become familiar territory. The Arbiter sat on a reinforced medical bed, the third one. Dr. Fraser had requisitioned after the standard models proved inadequate for Sangheili physiology, while Carter ran diagnostic scans on his Armor S systems. The neural interface damage from used Karakesh had scrambled several subroutines, and his shields were operating at 60% efficiency. The good news, Carter said, studying her tablet, is that your armor's self-repair protocols are incredible. It's already rerouting damaged pathways and compensating for the burned-out nodes. The bad news is that U.S. torture device left some kind of residual energy signature that's interfering with the Naquata power integration. Can you correct it? The Arbiter asked. I think so. But I'll need to basically rebuild the charging interface from scratch. Which means... She looked up with an apologetic expression. I need you to walk me through your armor's power distribution architecture. In detail. Teal'c entered carrying 2 trays from the commissary. He handed one to Carter coffee and something approximating breakfast, and set the other beside the Arbiter. Standard SGC rations, inadequate for Sangheili nutritional requirements, but the gesture carried weight. You fought well, Teal'c said simply. Few have endured the Karakesh and remained defiant. Fewer still have refused the Goa'uld when the symbiote was moments from implantation. The Arbiter's mandibles twitched. I have worn the collar of false prophets before. I will not wear another. He examined the tray's contents with mild confusion. What is this substance? Eggs, Teal'c replied. Protein. O'Neill assures me they are not terrible by human standards. High praise indeed, Carter added with a slight smile. The Arbiter sampled the eggs cautiously, his translator analyzing the chemical composition for compatibility. Sangheili could metabolize a wide range of organic compounds. Evolution on Sangheilios had demanded adaptability. The eggs were bland but acceptable. Your warriors risk much. The puddle jumper assault on the Teltac was tactically sound but dangerous. You could have destroyed you. Yeah, well, O'Neill's voice came from the doorway. He entered with Daniel trailing behind, both carrying their own coffee. We don't leave people behind. Even 8-foot alien warriors with anger management issues and glowing swords. He pulled up a chair. Wincing slightly, his shoulder had been bruised during the crash landing. Besides, if we'd let you turn you into a snake puppet, he'd have figured out Forerunner tech and we'd all be screwed. Strategic value, then, the Arbiter observed. Tactical necessity, O'Neill corrected. Also, you're growing on me. Like a really dangerous fungus. Daniel set down a stack of ancient tablets and printouts. I've been cross-referencing the Takra data with what we salvaged from P7X121 before the site collapsed. The connection between the Forerunners and Ancients goes deeper than we thought. They weren't just contemporary civilizations, they were actively collaborating. There are references to joint projects, shared research into ascension, even... He paused, adjusting his glasses. Even warnings about what they called the coming darkness. The Flood, the Arbiter said quietly. The parasite that consumed my galaxy. The Forerunners built the Halo arrays to stop it, fire the rings, destroy all sentient life, starve the flood of hosts. It worked. Barely. His amber eyes distant. The arrays fired 300 centuries ago. Every advanced civilization in the galaxy was annihilated. Only the Forerunners' genetic preservation protocols allowed life to reseed afterward. The room fell silent. The scale of the Forerunner solution, genocide as the only answer to an unstoppable threat, was something even SG-1, veterans of desperate battles, struggled to process. Your ancients faced similar choices, the Arbiter continued. Ascension was their answer. Abandon physical form, transcend to higher planes, and leave the galaxy behind. Different solutions, same desperation. And both civilizations, Daniel said slowly, built portals. The Forerunners built portal networks between installations. The Ancients built stargates between worlds. Transportation was survival, move populations, coordinate defenses, evacuate endangered species. Carter's tablet chirped with new data. The energy signature we detected on P7X121 wasn't just ancient and Forerunner technology coexisting. It was integrated, designed together from the ground up. The Arbiter's arrival was random. His armor's Forerunner command codes triggered ancient protocols in the Stargate network. She looked at the Arbiter with scientific wonder. "You're not just compatible with our technology. You're a key that unlocks systems we didn't know existed. Which is why you wanted him so badly," O'Neill concluded. "And why Anubis will want him worse." Anubis. Teal'c spoke the name like poison. "He possesses knowledge stolen from the Ascended. If he learns that ancient and Forerunner technologies can be merged, that the Arbiter's biology interfaces with systems predating the Goa'uld by eons." He didn't finish. He didn't need to. The Arbiter rose from the medical bed, his armor systems stabilizing as Carter's diagnostics completed their cycle. "Then Anubis must not capture me. And if he tries..." His energy sword ignited briefly, twin plasma blades casting blue-white light across the infirmary. "I will ensure he regrets the attempt." Hammond entered, and the room immediately shifted to attention. The general carried himself with the bearing of a commander who'd seen too many impossible situations and solved them anyway. "At ease, Arbiter, I've just finished a very interesting conversation with the President and the Joint Chiefs. They wanted to know why we destroyed an ancient Forerunner archaeological site worth potentially decades of study. I explained the Goa'uld would have weaponized the technology," the Arbiter said. "I told them the same thing." Hammond's expression was grim. "They're not happy, but they understand. What concerns them, and me, is the intelligence the Tok'ra just transmitted. System Lord Yu has called a conclave. He's sharing what he learned from scanning your memories during the Karakesh interrogation."
The Arbiter's mandibles tightened. "You had seen fragments, the Great Schism, Covenant fleet tactics, Sangheili honor codes. Enough to paint a picture of the Arbiter's universe and the technology it possessed. He will tell the other system lords that I come from a galaxy rich with salvageable technology. That capturing me grants access to Forerunner knowledge. Worse," Hammond said, "he's claiming you're a threat to Goa'uld supremacy. A warrior from beyond who serves no system lord and can't be implanted. He's positioning your capture as a matter of species survival for the Goa'uld." He paused. "They're going to come for you with everything they have. Let them come," the Arbiter replied. "I did not survive the Covenant's collapse to fear parasites wearing stolen faces." O'Neill stood. "That's great motivation, but let's be strategic here. The SGC is the most defended position we've got. Iris protocols, armed guards, fighter response from Peterson Air Force Base. If the Goa'uld want the Arbiter, they'll have to come through the gate, and we control that choke point. They could bombard from orbit," Daniel pointed out. "Not without revealing themselves to the entire planet," Carter countered. "The Goa'uld maintains secrecy about the Stargate program. A full orbital assault on Cheyenne Mountain would expose everything. Then they will send infiltrators," Teal'c predicted. "Assassins, spies, perhaps even human operatives through the trust. Anubis particularly favors subtle approaches when direct assault is unwise." Hammond nodded. "Which is why I'm authorizing enhanced security protocols. The Arbiter stays on base, no off-world missions until we assess the threat level. SG teams will operate under stricter protocols. And Dr. Carter," he looked at her, "I need you to finish integrating the Arbiter's shields with our power systems. If we're going to defend this base, I want every advantage we can get." "I can do that," Carter confirmed. "With full access to his armor systems and an Aquata generator, I can probably boost his shield strength by 30%. Maybe 40 if the integration coefficients hold." "Do it," Hammond ordered. "Colonel, assemble SG-1 and SG-3 for defensive briefings. Dr. Jackson, coordinate with the Tok'ra. I want to know the moment that conclave concludes and what the system lords decide. Teal'c, reach out to Bratak and the Jaffa Rebellion. If the Goa'uld are mobilizing, we need allies." The team dispersed to their assignments, leaving the Arbiter alone with Hammond in the infirmary. "You've put my people at risk," the general said quietly. "By being here, by triggering this system lord response, you've made Earth a target." "Yes," the Arbiter acknowledged. "I offer no apology. I did not choose to come here, but I will not flee from the consequences." "Good." Hammond's expression shifted slightly, approval breaking through the command mask. "Because running would just make them chase you harder, and I'd rather fight on ground of our choosing." You've proven yourself, Arbiter. You fought beside my teams, refused Goa'uld possession, and destroyed technology rather than let it fall into enemy hands. Those are the actions of a soldier, not a liability. He extended his hand. Welcome to Earth's defense. The Arbiter clasped the offered hand carefully, Sangheili's strength restrained to avoid crushing human bones. I will stand with you, General. Against false gods, against parasites, against any who would enslave through lies. This I swear. Hammond nodded. Then let's get to work. The Goa'uld are coming, and I intend to make them regret it. The attack came at 0347 hours, when the SGC's night shift was at minimal staffing. The Stargate activated without an incoming wormhole signal, impossible according to every protocol, but Anubis had never been constrained by what should be possible. The iris sealed automatically, and alarms shrieked through the mountain complex. The Arbiter was in the armory with Carter, working on the shield integration, when the base shuddered. Not an explosion, something worse. The sound of ancient metal screaming as it was torn apart at the molecular level. The iris, Carter breathed, her tablet showing impossible readings. Something's cutting through it from the other side. That's titanium alloy 3 micrometers from an active event horizon. Nothing should be able to... The iris collapsed inward in a shower of molten fragments. Through the Stargate stepped figures that made the Arbiter's combat instincts scream warnings. They were humanoid, roughly 2 meters tall, encased in black armor that seemed to absorb light. Their movements were wrong, too precise, too coordinated. And their energy signatures registered as neither fully Goa'uld nor entirely mechanical. Kull warriors. Teal'c's voice came over the base intercom, tight with fear the Yafa rarely displayed. Anubis's perfect soldiers. Fall back! Standard weapons are ineffective! The SF guards in the gate room opened fire with P-90s. Rounds sparked harmlessly off the Kull warriors' armor as the super soldiers advanced with inexorable purpose. A staff weapon blast caught one guard in the chest, dropping him instantly. Another guard's rifle fire concentrated on a single Kull warrior's helmet and achieved nothing but wasted ammunition. The Arbiter was already moving, energy sword igniting as he sprinted toward the gate room. Carter shouted something behind him about waiting for support, but there was no time. The Kull warriors were cutting through SF personnel like scythes through wheat, and every second of delay cost human lives. He burst into the gate room as a Kull warrior raised its weapon toward a wounded guard. The Arbiter's blade intercepted the blast, plasma edge dispersing the energy bolt, and then he was inside the warrior's guard. His energy sword carved through the black armor with resistance, not impenetrable, but close. The Kull warrior staggered, and the Arbiter drove his blade through its chest cavity. The super soldier collapsed, but 3 more were already targeting him. Staff weapon fire converged on his position, and his shields flared gold under the sustained assault. These weren't standard Goa'uld weapons, the energy output was higher, refined, each blast draining his shields faster than they could recharge. Arbiter, fall back to secondary positions. O'Neill's voice crackled over comms. We're activating containment protocols. Heavy blast doors began descending throughout the gate room complex, designed to seal off compromised sections. The Arbiter grabbed the wounded guard, hauled him back through the doorway, and rolled beneath the descending door as it slammed shut with a finality that echoed through the corridor. Behind the reinforced barrier, Kull warriors pounded against titanium alloy. Each impact sent resonant clangs through the metal, and visible dents began forming. They're going to breach, Carter said, arriving with O'Neill, Teal'c, and Daniel. Those doors are rated for Goa'uld weapons fire, but Kull warriors operate on a completely different power scale. How many came through? O'Neill demanded. I counted 6 before the doors sealed, the Arbiter reported. But more may follow. The Stargate remains active. Teal'c checked his staff weapon with grim efficiency. Kull warriors are Anubis's ultimate weapon. Their armor is impervious to staff weapons, bullets, most energy attacks. They feel no pain, show no fear, and follow orders unto death. He met the Arbiter's eyes. The only weapon we have found effective against them is a specific frequency of ancient drone technology, which we don't have enough of to defend the entire base, Carter added. She was already working her tablet, pulling up schematics. We've got maybe 3 ancient weapons drones left in storage, and they're unguided without a puddle jumper's control system. The blast doors buckled inward, metal shrieking. A staff weapon barrel punched through the gap, firing blindly into the corridor. SG-3 arrived with heavy weapons M249 SAWs, grenade launchers, everything the SGC could throw at a target, but Teal'c is right. Standard munitions would be worse than useless. Your energy sword cut through their armor, Daniel observed, his voice carrying the analytical detachment he used to process crisis. That's Forerunner technology. Maybe it operates on frequencies their shields can't adapt to? Possibly, the Arbiter confirmed. His shields were back to 80%, recharged by Carter's Nekwata integration. But I am one warrior. 6 Kull soldiers, potentially more incoming, and I cannot be everywhere simultaneously. O'Neill was already formulating tactics. Then we don't fight them everywhere. We funnel them into kill zones, concentrate fire, and let the Arbiter execute with that lightsaber while we provide support. Energy sword. The Arbiter corrected automatically. Whatever. Point is, we make them come to us on our terms. Carter, can you rig the ancient drones to detonate on proximity? Turn them into mines? Maybe, but the yield would be… She stopped, reconsidering. Actually, yes. If I remove the guidance systems and set them to explode on contact with the Kull armor Zest-specific energy signature, we could create a defensive perimeter. Do it, O'Neill ordered. Teal'c, get SG-3, and whoever else can shoot straight set up in crossfire positions. When those doors blow, I want every angle covered. Daniel, evacuate non-essential personnel to sublevel 28 and seal it. This whole level becomes the battleground. The doors exploded inward in a shower of twisted metal. Kull warriors advanced through the breach with mechanical precision, staff weapons sweeping for targets. O'Neill's trap sprung concentrated fire from 3 directions, not to damage but to disorient and slow. The Arbiter charged into the chaos, active camouflage engaged, a ghost with a plasma blade. He struck from the blind spot, energy sword carving through a Kull warrior's spine. The super soldier collapsed, its nervous system severed. The others adapted instantly, forming defensive positions and firing in coordinated patterns. The Arbiter's shields took hits from multiple angles, each blast calculated to overlap and overwhelm his defenses. Carter's improvised ancient mines detonated as a Kull warrior stepped on the proximity trigger. The explosion was devastating ancient technology meeting Anubis' armor in a cascade of energy that vaporized the super soldier and scorched the corridor walls. But there were still 4 active Kull warriors, and the Stargate was disgorging more. Gate room shows 8 no 10 additional contacts. Harriman's voice came over comes from the control room. They're not stopping. Teal'c's staff weapon fire bought seconds for the Arbiter to flank another Kull warrior. His blade found the weak point at the neck joint, and another super soldier fell. But plasma burns were accumulating on his armor. His shields was cycling between 60 and 80% without reaching full charge, and the sheer number of enemies was overwhelming even Sangheili combat prowess. A Kull warrior's blade extended from its gauntlet caught the Arbiter across his chest plate. The impact sent him staggering, armor integrity warnings screaming. He responded with a horizontal slash that severed the warrior's weapon arm, then drove his sword through its faceplate. They're pushing toward the control room, O'Neill realized. They're not trying to kill us, they're trying to secure the Stargate. Anubis wants a permanent beachhead. The tactical situation crystallized. Kull warriors were elite infiltrators, not mass assault troops. Anubis wasn't invading, he was establishing control. Once the Stargate was secured, he could bring through whatever forces he wanted. Hatak motherships could be disassembled and transported piecemeal. The entire Goa'uld Empire could pour through if the SGC fell. We have to collapse the gate room, Teal'c said. Bury the Stargate under tons of rock. It is the only way. That would trap us here, Daniel protested. No gate, no way off-world, no connection to allies. We'll dig it out eventually, O'Neill interrupted. But right now, we need to not let Anubis claim our planet. He looked at Carter. Can you do it? Controlled demolition? Collapse just the gate room? C4 charges on the support pillars. Carefully calculated yields. Carter calculated rapidly. Yes, but I'd need time to plant them. And the Kull warriors are between us and the gate room. The Arbiter's energy sword hummed in the corridor's emergency lighting. Then I will buy you that time. You can't hold them alone, O'Neill protested. I held the line at the threshold of the sacred icon, the Arbiter replied. I stood alone against Tartarus and his Jiralhane berserkers when the Great Schism began. I am Arbiter sent to die gloriously, expected to fail, and too stubborn to cooperate. His mandibles spread. Your warrior, Teal'c, once told me that freedom costs more than slavery. If the cost today is one Sangheili life to preserve Earth's freedom from parasites, he met O'Neill's eyes. Then it is a bargain I accept gladly. Damn it, O'Neill muttered. Then louder, Carter, you've got 10 minutes. Plant your charges and blow this level to hell. Teal'c, Daniel, cover her. SG-3, fall back to sublevel security positions and prepare for breach containment. And you, Colonel? Teal'c asked. O'Neill checked his P90, slapped in a fresh magazine. I'm helping our 8-foot friend prove that prophecy wrong. Nobody dies gloriously on my watch. We all get out, or I'm writing a really angry letter to Anubis. The Arbiter would have smiled if Sangheili physiology permitted it. Instead, he activated his shields to maximum output, ignited his energy sword, and charged back into the gate room where 14 Kull warriors now assembled in perfect formation. Behind him, O'Neill muttered, "This is either really brave or really stupid." With the Arbiter, Teal'c observed, it is often both. The battle that followed would be recorded in SGC history as the gate room stand. The Arbiter fought like legends describe Sangheili fleet masters, each movement precise, each strike calculated, shields and blade and raw physicality combined into art. Kull warriors fell, but slowly, and for each one the Arbiter destroyed, his armor took damage that wouldn't fully repair. And through it all, Carter worked in the maintenance tunnels above, placing shaped charges on support pillars that had held Cheyenne Mountain for decades. When the 10 minutes elapsed, O'Neill grabbed the Arbiter's arm. Time. Move! They ran as Carter's voice counted down over comes. 5, 4, 3. The explosions were precise, calculated, perfect. The gate room's ceiling collapsed in a controlled cascade, burying the Stargate under thousands of tons of rock and steel. Kull warriors vanished beneath the avalanche, their impervious armor meaningless against geological mass. The Stargate's event horizon collapsed as the wormhole destabilized, severed from the destination address. And in the sudden silence, the Arbiter stood among his teammates, armor scorched and dented, shields offline, but alive. Hammond's voice came over emergency comms. Status? Gate room collapsed, O'Neill reported. Kull warriors buried. Stargate offline. Earth still ours. He looked at the Arbiter. Thanks to one stubborn alien who doesn't know when to quit. The Arbiter's mandibles twitched. Quitting is for those who fear redemption. I seek to earn mine. Section 10. 3 days after the gate room stand, the excavation crews were still clearing rubble. The Stargate itself had survived. Ancient alloys were designed to endure worse than controlled demolitions, but accessing it would take weeks. The SGC operated in a strange limbo, cut off from the galaxy but secure in the knowledge that Anubis's assault had failed. The Arbiter stood in the observation room overlooking the collapsed gate room, his armor finally fully repaired by a combination of its self-repair protocols, and Carter's increasingly sophisticated understanding of Forerunner systems. His shields hummed at 110% efficiency, better than original specifications, thanks to the Naquata integration she'd perfected during the downtime. Penny for your thoughts, Daniel said, entering with 2 cups of coffee. He offered one to the Arbiter, who accepted it with the same cautious curiosity he'd shown toward SGC cuisine. Or whatever currency the Sangheili use. We bartered in honor and martial prowess, the Arbiter replied, sampling the coffee and finding it surprisingly acceptable. Though the Covenant enforced an economic system based on species hierarchy. Sangheili received the finest weapons, the strongest shields. Ungoi received scraps and were grateful for the privilege. Daniel leaned against the observation window. You're thinking about what you said. About your guilt. The Karakesh does not lie, the Arbiter confirmed. You saw my memories. Worlds glassed on Prophet's orders. Heretics executed. Humans in my universe hunted as vermin because the Prophets declared them offensive to Forerunner legacy. He set down the coffee cup carefully. I carry those deaths, Dr. Jackson. Redemption does not erase them. No, Daniel agreed quietly. It doesn't. I've made mistakes too. Opened a Stargate that brought the Goa'uld back to Earth. Cost people their lives through naivety. Through believing that pure intentions would protect me from consequences. He removed his glasses, cleaning them with habitual nervousness. But Teal once told me that the path of redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about ensuring the future doesn't repeat it. Teal'c entered as if summoned by the mention of his name, carrying his staff weapon and wearing an expression of grim satisfaction. The Tok'ra have transmitted new intelligence. The System Lord's conclave ended in chaos. You argued for unified action against you. Baal suggested negotiation. Lord Camulus proposed leaving Earth alone entirely, fearing another costly defeat. He allowed himself the smallest smile. Anubis's failure to capture you and his loss of 14 Kull warriors has made the System Lords cautious. They fear what they don't understand, the Arbiter observed. As the prophets feared the truth of the halos. The Yafa rebellion has taken notice as well, Teal continued. Master Braytak wishes to meet you. He has heard tales of the warrior who refused Goa'uld possession, who stood against Kull warriors and survived. Such stories spread quickly among those who seek to break their chains. O'Neill arrived with Hammond, both looking exhausted but satisfied. The colonel carried a folder marked with high-level classification stamps. Okay kids, family meeting time. General? Hammond cleared his throat formally. Thel Vadam, over the past 2 weeks you have conducted yourself with honor, courage, and tactical excellence. You've proven yourself in combat, resisted Goa'uld interrogation and possession, and defended this facility against overwhelming force. The President and Joint Chiefs have reviewed your actions and, at my strong recommendation, have authorized your official integration into Stargate command operations. The Arbiter's mandibles spread in surprise. I am not human. I am not even of this universe. Yeah, we noticed, O'Neill said dryly. But neither is Teal'c, and he's been on SG-1 for 7 years. You've earned this. He opened the folder, revealing what looked like official military documents. It's not a standard commission. You're technically a special contractor with full operational authority, but it grants you security clearance, access to SGC resources, and authorization for off-world missions. There are conditions, Hammond added. You operate under my command structure. You follow established protocols. And you share what you know about Forerunner technology with our scientists voluntarily, at your discretion. But honestly, the Arbiter considered. In another life, he had commanded fleets, enforced prophet decrees, and answered to no one but the hierarchs themselves. But that life had been built on lies. This standing in a human military facility, being offered partnership rather than servitude, this was earned through blood and choice. I accept, he said formally, on one condition. The Yafa rebellion Teal'c's people seeking freedom from false gods, I wish to aid them directly. To testify before those who still serve the Goa'uld. To show them that warriors from beyond their galaxy recognize the parasites for what they are. Teal'c's eyes blazed with fierce approval. Such testimony would carry immense weight. A warrior who has already defeated his own false gods, who speaks with authority of liberation. Yes, the Yafa rebellion would welcome your voice. Then it's settled, Hammond said. Welcome officially to Earth's defense, Arbiter. When the Stargate is operational again, you'll have your chance to fight alongside us. Against the Goa'uld, against any threat to our galaxy. And maybe, if we're lucky, to find a way back to your universe someday. Carter entered the observation room, tablet in hand, and scientific excitement barely contained. The Arbiter looked down at the buried Stargate, at the tons of rock that had saved Earth from Anubis's invasion. In his universe, the war against Covenant remnants continued. The Sangheili struggled to rebuild their society free from prophet lies. The galaxy limped toward recovery after the Great Schism's devastation. But here, through this ring of ancient metal, lay a different war. Humans fighting false gods with courage and ingenuity. Yafa breaking chains. Tok'ra resisting from within. A rebellion against divinity that mirrored his own people's awakening. Someday, he said finally, I may seek to return. To rejoin my people, to continue the fight in my own galaxy. But not yet. His amber eyes met each member of SG-1 in turn. The Goa'uld are what the prophets would have become if left unchecked, parasites wearing divinity as disguise, enslaving through faith and forced by fear. If I abandoned this fight, I would betray everything the Great Schism taught me. O'Neill clapped him on the armored shoulder. Good answer. Now, how do you feel about really terrible cafeteria food and even worse military procedural briefings? Because that's about 70% of this job. The other 30%? The Arbiter asked. Shooting false gods in the face and blowing up their motherships, O'Neill replied cheerfully. It's a living, Daniel smiled. You know, in all the ancient texts I've translated, there's a recurring phrase. Nil eon tintin mar du thintian fine. It's from an earth culture, actually, but the ancients recorded it. It means there's no hearth like your own hearth. But I think it also means that home isn't just where you read from, it's where you choose to stand. The Arbiter looked at the humans who had fought beside him, who had risked their lives to prevent his capture, who offered partnership instead of exploitation. Then I choose to stand here, with SG-1, against false gods. Until every Goa'uld has fallen, or I have fallen in the attempt. Let's aim for option 1, O'Neill suggested. I've got a really bad feeling option 2 involves me writing a lot of condolence letters. And my handwriting is terrible. Teal'c raised his staff weapon in salute. Then let us prepare. The Stargate will reopen. Master Bretak awaits. And the Goa'uld will soon learn what the Covenant learned, that warriors who have seen through the lies of false prophets are the most dangerous enemies of all. Through the observation window, excavation crews worked to unbury the gate. Somewhere in the galaxy, system lords schemed and plotted. Anubis nursed his defeat and planned revenge. The Ori Crusade approached from distant galaxies, though none yet knew it. And countless Yafa still knelt before parasites they believed were gods. But in Cheyenne Mountain, an alliance had formed that transcended species and galaxies. The Arbiter had found his new war, and Earth had gained a warrior who understood that the greatest battles were fought not for conquest, but for the right to be free. The Stargate reopened 3 weeks later, and the Arbiter's first official mission took him to the Yafa stronghold on Kalma, where Master Bretak assembled rebel warriors seeking to break free from Goa'uld slavery. His testimony, a warrior from beyond the Chapa'i, who had served false prophets and lived to overthrow them, rippled through the rebellion like fire through dry grass. Yafa, who had doubted, found courage. Those who had wavered found purpose. The system lords took notice. Yu's intelligence proved accurate. The demon warrior now stood with the Tori, Earth's defenders. Baal began subtle maneuvers to either recruit or eliminate him. Anubis rebuilt his Kull warrior forces, each one programmed with specific protocols to counter Forerunner energy signatures. But the Arbiter had learned patience during the Great Schism. Redemption was not a single battle but an endless campaign. Each Yafa freed from Goa'uld slavery. Each world defended from system lord tyranny. Each human saved from parasitic possession. These were victories measured not in territory claimed but in chains broken. SG-1 found in the Arbiter a warrior who understood their mission viscerally. O'Neill appreciated his tactical brilliance and dry sense of honor. Carter marveled at the integration of Forerunner and ancient technologies his presence revealed. Daniel saw in him the proof that any species could break free from religious tyranny. And Teal'c recognized a brother in arms, both warriors who had worn the collar of false gods and chose freedom over servitude. The war against the Goa'uld continued. But now, the fight included a Sangheili warrior seeking redemption, an 8-foot testament to the simple truth that false gods could be killed and slaves could become free. And in the SGC's records, filed under extraterrestrial allies, a single note appeared. The Arbiter stands with Earth. May our enemies tremble at what that alliance will achieve. If you enjoyed watching the Arbiter stand alongside SG-1 against the false gods of the galaxy, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next crossover story. There are infinite universes to explore and countless warriors waiting to step through the Stargate. Drop a comment below telling me which character you want to see join the fight against the Goa'uld, or which universe should collide with the SGC next. Your suggestions fuel these stories, and I can't wait to see what impossible crossovers you dream up. Come back next time for another journey through the Stargate. The gate is always open, and more legends await on the other side.